Hello there and welcome back to ADcraft. This episode I'm taking on the biggest project yet and building into the cliffs at the side of the base. This is going to take so much terraforming and so many blocks, with just the planning alone for this building taking well over a week. Can I pull it off in survival? Stick around to find out. Whilst you do, hit that like button and let's see if we can hit 150 likes for this episode. But first, I need to make some upgrades to my wither skeleton farm, so I'm going to need a lot of bone meal for wood and for the mud bricks for this build. Rather than using pressure plates to cover up the warped forest section where I keep getting endermen spawning around the farm, I am going to collect myself a whole bunch of lava and pretty much just dump that all over the forest itself. So I now need to find as many of these patches and head to the nether and start collecting all of this lava up. The next stage in the plan is to get hold of a whole bunch of wither roses, and it is ENXO4 to the rescue again with this incredibly simple but massively effective wither rose farm. It just uses the mechanics with the wither under here, so if we pop that in and we head down here, the wither will explode in a second, and all we need to do is literally place ourselves some snow blocks down here and we will create a whole bunch of the snow golems, which will then die to the wither, giving us the wither roses, and we also recycle these pumpkins. So I'll put the link down in the description, and this is just amazing. And when you're done, you just kill off the wither, or you can just exit the area and the wither will stay here trapped in the bedrock. And now, a long time later, with literally hundreds of strategically placed buckets of lava dotted throughout all of this warped forest area to block as many enderman spawns as possible. And all of these slabs have now been replaced by netherrack with all of the lovely wither roses on, so only wither skeletons can now spawn in this space. I now have absolutely loads of wither skeletons dropping down here, ready to be killed off. And that is giving me so many bones, so much coal, which are the two main things that I now need. I've also remodeled this area a little bit because this spot that I was standing on before to kill these guys off is actually a little bit too close to activate the majority of the spawning spaces. So by digging down here, opening this out, and by putting some quality of life things in like a fire to get rid of all of the swords in, now, as you can see by standing down here, there are loads and loads of wither skeletons that drop down here, and within no time this fills up and they should probably start dying off soon due to entity cramming, so I best go and give them a stab. And yeah, this is now working so much better than it was before, and I'm really pleased, even though it was a load of extra work, with how this is now finished out, and this can give me all of those vital resources like the bones and the coal that I'll need. With the resources from the wither skeleton farm running through the sorting system, it is now time to start the huge job of clearing out more of this area ready for the next build. Well, that took 2.5 pickaxes of digging and many hours to actually clear the area, but now this is pretty much ready and a blank canvas for the next area of the Steampunk Town. I now have to take all the resources back and get them into the storage system first of all, and then I need a bit of a break from this, and there's something else that I want to get hold of, and that is some totems of undying, because I haven't had any so far this season, haven't actually faced a raid at all, even though I keep getting pillagers around this area. So I'm going to use that fact to my benefit. I am going to go back to the village area, and using ENXO4's Minecraft Elegance Instant AFK raid farm, I am going to get building with another farm to give me emeralds and a whole bunch of other materials. I've now finished the build, and this guy is happily sitting here at the bottom, ready to be my village to summon as many raids as I want. I've also added the outline of a nether portal here so I can connect this up from the nether roof, and I've taken the coordinates for this because I realised that if I do accidentally go over my village here, that's going to start the raid over there. So I'm going to connect this through the nether to the pillager outpost, which should just be that direction somewhere. So now I've got to go out and add another nether portal at the pillager outpost rather, and connect them up through the nether. So I've got bad omen now from this pillager outpost, and I've set up a nether portal ready to go from this place, so this should all be fine. I now need to head straight back to the raid farm and make sure that I don't go over my village so that I can test it out. And that is the first raid now set off. So I just need to head up here now and wait for this to spawn. There we have the raid, and that has now spawned. So now what we do is we just head through here. These guys fall through, and then you just swipe away at them just like this, making sure that you can kill off all the guys with the vexes, and this will be great. So I'm back at the pillager outpost, and I've just got myself some bad omen. I've been trying to clean things up a little bit because there's this big ravine in here, but now I've got the bad omen, I can show you that we've connected up this outpost through to bring us out on the nether roof over here. And just over there, if we fly over, we have our raid farm. So it should mean that traveling between the two is now significantly easier. And if I just come in through here, and that immediately starts a raid, so we can then just head up here, and once we get up there we can see that they've all spawned. And then we flick the lever again to turn off all the water and cycle through with another round of bad omen. After maybe just over an hour of running raids and coming back down and cycling that through, I now have a full shulker box full of totems of undying, and this shulker box here with some saddles to take back to the base. But of course that's not all. I've also got this double chest and a whole bunch of totems that I've just had to throw away, and also loads and loads of saddles here as well. But the main thing that I did do this for was in this chest here, the emeralds. I need lots of these to do some trading with my villagers at my villager trading area for things like the bricks that I'll need and the other stuff. So it's nice to get some other little bonuses, because this isn't a stacking raid farm. It's not mainly for these things. It's mainly for the emeralds that I'm doing this. So this is an absolutely brilliant, really, really simple farm by IanXO4, and I will of course pop the details and the link in the description. I've got a whole bunch of resources ready now in here, and it is time for me to start a bit of a time lapse going through setting the groundwork for the next stage of the builds. Now, story time. So, in real life, it's about 2 weeks or so, just over probably, since I filmed that last set of clips of building the cliff road and the detailing on there, and I have been on a bit of a journey. Unfortunately, not the good kind. Shortly after recording those clips of the cliffside, I was due to go into hospital for a very, very simple procedure. Unfortunately, things didn't go quite as planned, because whilst I was in there, I had a very severe allergic reaction to one of the drugs that they gave me. And that caused me to go into anaphylaxis, which is basically when your body severely rejects what is inside it, and it causes all manner of things to go wrong. So as a result of that, I had to be rushed to the intensive care unit, was there for about 8 hours whilst they tried to make sure that everything was better, everything was sorted, and then was taken into hospital for a little while for observation as well. Good news is it's not something that they gave me that you would come into contact with on a day-to-day basis, so not something I really need to avoid, but will know about next time I go into hospital for anything in particular. And yeah, it definitely took it out of me. It was a big shock to the system, and it's just taken me a little while to recover and get my energy levels back. But on the plus side, I am feeling much better now. So I have had that chance to recover, and I'm back at it. and looking forward to getting to the next stage of the build. So now back over to the cliffside area to start with some of the buildings. And I'm really pleased with how this area has come together so far, but of course it's not finished. So we actually have 3 full builds that we're going to be putting into these spaces. But now I need to go back to the storage system and start putting together all of those resources that I'm going to need for these builds. I've managed to make a bit of an error, as you can see from the top of my screen. There's so many patrols that seem to spawn over by the steampunk area that I killed a patrol captain and forgot that I had the bad omen effect, even though I was doing other stuff for goodness knows how long, and then came back to the village to trade for some bricks over here. And yeah, managed to spawn a raid, which was very, very bad news here. I killed all of the first wave and managed to capture this guy down here. And as you can also see, I've started using the Fresh Animations texture pack, which just gives so much more life to the mobs that you get in the game. You can see from the zombie up here, they've all got different movements and different animations. But the downside for this raid was that I've managed to lose a few villagers to the raid itself, which is not ideal in any way, shape or form. I think this guy was efficiency. I'll need to check. These guys should be absolutely fine to replace. They didn't have anything particularly special. I just used them for the iron trades in order to get the emeralds, but with the raid farm, that's less necessary. The one that I am going to miss, though, is this guy here. He was a Fletcher, and he was the guy who traded arrows of weakness, which was absolutely perfect for zombifying and bringing these guys back. So one thing that I'm going to have to do is make this a lot more secure. At some point I need to move this over to the steampunk area anyway. That will probably accelerate the whole thing. And yeah, at the moment these guys don't seem to be breeding, so I need to get them some more carrots as well. But now on with the trading. And with all of the materials collected, it's time for some building. Before I start on the third major building over there, let's have a look at these. So this first one has got a really, really chunky looking chimney here. We've got some of the pipes going in and we can head across, and there's just another machine on top there providing some steam power. And if we go inside, you might be able to notice something through the window. Again, we've got a purpose for this, and this is my lava factory. So we've just got 8 buckets of lava here going through this dripstone. I've got myself some buckets here. Whenever one of these fills up, I can just go like this and plonk it in here. So this now gives me a full source, and that one's filled up again already. Don't want to miss out on that. This gives me an infinite source of lava. So I will at some point probably fill in my super smelter with buckets of lava, because that'll just keep it going forever. But yeah, this will just be going off in the background, and we've got some nice soul fire burning in there as well. So the next building we have is in the cliff itself. So I've decided to go for a bit of a diagonal build, the first, but won't be the last by any means. And this is using some of the new mechanics from the 1.19 update. So one of the things that I really love is the fact that you can waterlog leaves. So we've got some roots and some leaves that are waterlogged throughout this. And the main purpose of this is my nether wart farm. So you'll see that we've got some of these hoppers going around the edge, and of course, because the soul sand isn't a full block, we've got some hoppers underneath there, so that'll just pick things up. And when this is done, you just plonk that button, it will just wash everything through, everything comes down into here, and you can just replant to your heart's content. So this again is going to be really, really useful, just passively working away in the background as well. This is as automated as you can get nether wart farms, unfortunately, but hopefully one day they'll be able to replant themselves, or get some villagers to actually plant the nether wart. The other thing that we've got in here is just this little unit just showing off some of the other nether plants. So this is kind of a botanically type factory, but again with some skulk and some various other things thrown in for good measure. And I'm really, really happy with how this area is starting to come together with all of the different builds and bringing the whole thing to life. And I've also been making some quality of life improvements on the builds that have already been here, like this elytra hole in the side of the storage system that brings me straight in on the level of the sorter, so I can dump all the stuff in there and just fly off to do something else. And it's another quality of life improvement that I'm looking to do now. So during the course of these builds, I've been using a lot of my reserves of copper. There's loads and loads in these pipes. There's quite a bit even in here, various different bits and pieces all over. And I need a better way of aging the copper up without having to go all the way back over to the village. So my solution is to use some of these little holes, or this one in particular. I'm going to carve out into this cliff and give myself a big space in order to lay out the copper and then start actually farming that. Whilst I'm around here, it can quite happily be aging away and I can just pick that up. But I'm also a bit fed up of picking it up just normally. So I've been doing a bit of thinking and I've come up with a bit of a solution to that. And that is going to need us to head over to my testing world. And over here you will see this monstrosity that is probably more of a proof of concept than anything. But what I have done is I have created a system for picking up all of the copper once it has aged and bringing it to a single location in order to be able to then mine it as easily as possible. So at the touch of a button, well, I haven't connected up both of the buttons yet, but at the touch of two buttons at present, this will, first of all, if I click this, push up all of the copper. So this is going to be floor level, so it's going to push it up into the air. I've got a whole bunch of flying machines that then are going to come over and collect the copper into basically 8 long lines. So there's an entire stack of copper that this will do. So this will be 8 lots of 8, which will bring it all the way over here. And once it's brought it all the way over here, it'll stop just at the end. And then I've got some more monstrous flying machines here. Once that's done, I can press the second button and this will all be connected and timed. And the second stage then brings all of this stuff in, brings the two sides of copper together. That one's broken. Oh no, it's just some lag. And then it pushes the copper down there and those flying machines go all the way back to their bays. And I've then got this copper here that I can just go and mine out. And so I can make myself a little space and keep collecting the copper until I actually need it and then mine it all in one go. So yeah, this is kind of what I'm looking to do. Had to learn a fair bit about flying machines to make sure that this would work, particularly these ones, which are as small as possible because they need to push 8 full blocks there. So yeah, really pleased with how these have gone and the return stations and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to change these. I just used crying obsidian because why not, even though it's a bit painful on the eyes. But now I've got this concept. I know roughly the space that I'm going to need to dig out. And so I can start clearing this and start thinking about building this back in the steampunk area. The digging is now complete and that took an age, as well as going through 4 full netherite picks. I went through all 3 of these once and yeah, I've done another one in as well, so that needs repairing. I've also got all of these resources, so loads of stone, and all of these chests are pretty much full as well. Yeah, so that's going to keep me going for quite some time. Now I need to start thinking about laying out the redstone. This area is definitely a bigger area than I expected because it's even, if we come over this way, come out a little bit on this side. So I had to fill in some extra blocks around here where it's coming out into this area, and I'm really looking forward to building in this area because it's really, really cool, just this big bowl here. And I also needed to put myself a couple of beacons on the other side so that with the skeleton farm is very much paying for itself. But now I need to head back in to the storage area and get all of the redstone that I'm going to need to actually start building this. I've now done the most important part of any redstone build, and that is the laying of the wall to put the redstone on, because let's face it, I'm not going to just put it on the stone here. I've color coded all of the different lines so that if I do dig anything up by accident, because all of this is going to be under the floor, bear in mind, that I know what to fix, because the last thing I want is the flying machines to start breaking on me. and having to keep fixing those. So that's all done. I now need to smelt a whole bunch of glazed terracotta so that I can cover up the return stations and that the flying machines won't stick to them. I also need a bunch of obsidian, but the next thing that you're going to see is once I've put all of the redstone in place. Now that that's used a good chunk of my redstone resources, I'm going to need to do some serious trading with some villagers, some clerics, to get the redstone back, particularly because just loads of it's gone into this. It's now done, and if we give it a quick test, I've just used some of the terracotta that I mined out, so it's easy to see. We head over here. I have run this, but not with any blocks in, so this could still go absolutely terribly wrong. Hopefully I've got the timings right, and just as it gets to the end here, this redstone line should fire off about now. Fantastic. Timing's pretty good there. Head across now, and this should all come to the middle. These go a bit crazy and push down loads of times. No idea why they're doing that. I think it's something to do with how I've actually got the redstone. If we just have a quick look up there, how I've got the redstone going across. I know I could use loads of observers and just have the observers with the repeaters here, but I was trying to save myself a few resources at least. But it still works, even if it does go a bit crazy. And here we've got now our nice mineable slab, so I can then just chunk through this with that being copper in the future, or using this as a stopper, get myself 3 layers of it and actually just mine it all away, leave it all here, just run it each time the copper has aged. So I'm really pleased with that. And yeah, that is going to be enough on this particular project. Now, because I still need to design what I want the interior of this to look like. Haven't decided whether I'm going to have full blocks here or slabs in between. We'll see. I think probably full blocks, so I can just run across without actually getting bumped or changing height. So now though, I need to take all of these resources back to the storage system, get those put away, and pull out the resources for the last build in this area and the last build for this episode over here, and get that put in place. As we come past the sugarcane farm, you can see the new build is complete, and I've worked very hard on the sight lines for this to make sure that this is the thing that pops out just as you come around the corner, and it gives some brilliant views and ties in the cliff there, particularly with these big pipes as well. So I'm super pleased with how this has gone. I haven't got an interior for it yet, I'm still working on that. If you've got any ideas, please do let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, please do let me know as well. Hit that like button, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you all next time on ADcraft.